Close your eyes. When you open them, you're not in your comfortable bed, but on a humble straw mattress. Rough stone walls surround you. The air is cool, heavy with wood smoke and earth. A single candle flickers, casting dancing shadows. You've been transported, not in a dream, but to the Middle Ages. Breathe in this moment, for we're about to journey through a lost world, one of grit and glory, faith and fear, all from the safety of your imagination. Your day begins before the first hint of dawn, roused by the insistent crow of a rooster, a sound unchanged across centuries. You rise from your crude bed, pulling on a simple woolen tunic and breeches. Your first task, tend the animals. Feed the chickens pecking at your feet, milk the goat providing precious sustenance, and harness the great ox for the fields. The earthy musk of animals, the sharp sweetness of hay, these are the smells of a life tied intimately to the land. Back in your small one-room cottage, your family stirs. Breakfast is a plain but hearty affair. Barley porridge and stale bread, washed down with weak ale. Fuel for the back-breaking labor ahead. As the sun paints the horizon in hues of pink and gold, you head to the fields. With your ox and plow, you turn the rich, dark earth, preparing it for wheat, barley, rye, and oats, the staples for survival through long, cold winters. The sun beats down, sweat trickles, muscles ache. This is the endless cycle of planting and harvest, your life dictated by the seasons and the demands of the local lord who owns the land. Your labor, a portion of your yield, and unwavering fealty are exchanged for his protection. It's a simple, rigid arrangement defining millions across medieval Europe. Yet even in this humble existence, there is a profound satisfaction, a sense of purpose woven into the fabric of the earth. But sometimes destiny twists. Imagine a young boy, born a peasant in these very fields, chasing butterflies, playing with a stick sword. This carefree child, destined for greatness, will rise from the furrows to reshape history. Let's call him the Ascendant Lord. Orphaned young, his life takes a remarkable turn when a local lord recognizes his keen mind and fierce spirit, taking him in as a squire. This is a rare chance, an escape from endless toil. The Ascendant Lord seizes it with both hands. He rapidly masters horsemanship, swordsmanship, courtly etiquette, and military strategy. Tall, strong, with a natural authority, his talents do not go unnoticed. He catches the eye of the powerful Duke of Normandy, who knights him and grants him lands and titles. It's a dizzying ascent from peasant to nobleman, but he's just beginning. His gaze sets on an even grander prize, the English throne itself. Through cunning alliances, political maneuvering, and sheer ruthlessness, he positions himself as a claimant. When the old English king dies without a clear heir, the moment arrives. In 1066, the Ascendant Lord gathers a vast army and crosses the English Channel. His invasion force lands on the southern coast of England, met by the English army under the new king, Harold Godwinson. The stage is set for one of medieval history's most famous clashes, the Battle of Hastings. On a field near the small coastal village, the armies collide. English warriors form an impenetrable shield wall, their battle axes and spears bristling. For hours, they repel the Norman cavalry. But the Ascendant Lord is a master strategist. He orders his cavalry to feign retreat, luring the English out from their defensive positions. Then, wheeling his horsemen, he charges, smashing into their exposed flanks. The tactic is devastating. By day's end, the field is strewn with bodies, the English army in full retreat. King Harold is dead, struck down. The Ascendant Lord stands victorious, the crown of England now within his grasp. On Christmas Day, 1066, he is crowned king in Westminster Abbey, ushering in an era of Norman rule that will forever transform the country. The Norman conquest fundamentally alters England's language, culture, and power structures. French becomes the language of the court. Anglo-Saxon aristocracy is replaced by his loyal Norman barons, granted vast tracts of land.
These barons waste no time asserting their new power. The landscape blossoms with castles, early motte and bailey structures, earthen mounds topped with wooden keeps, then evolving into towering stone fortresses. These classic medieval castles, with their thick curtain walls, soaring towers, crenellated battlements, moats, and drawbridges, aren't just military strongholds. They are symbols of wealth, physical embodiments of dominance. Within their walls, lords and ladies enact courtly life, feasting and plotting. The bailey hums with blacksmiths forging armor, fletchers crafting arrows, men-at-arms training. In times of trouble, the castle transforms into a refuge, its drawbridge raised, portcullis lowered, sealing its inhabitants from danger. Beyond the castle walls, another bastion of power looms, the great cathedrals and monasteries across Europe. Soaring monuments to the Catholic Church's grandeur, these structures assert immense influence in an age where faith is life's cornerstone. The Church guards knowledge, arbitrates morality, and promises salvation. To be in its good graces is to be blessed. Monasteries are crucial centers of learning and culture. Within cloistered walls, monks painstakingly copy and illuminate manuscripts, preserving ancient wisdom. They are also economic powerhouses, with vast land holdings worked by peasants, producing wool and grain. For many, the Church offers the only path to education and social advancement. Yet, the Church is also a source of fear. From pulpits, preachers warn of hellfire for unrepentant sinners. Some, like the Benedictine monks, embrace austere lives of poverty, chastity, and obedience, rising before dawn for divine office, spending days in silent study and manual labor. But powerful abbots and bishops often involve themselves in worldly affairs, politics, even leading armies. The line between spiritual and temporal power blurs, a constant struggle in medieval life. Take, for example, the Humble Friar. Born into a wealthy Italian family, he enjoyed a life of privilege. But encounters with the poor and sick ignited a spiritual awakening. He renounced his worldly goods, embraced poverty, and preached love and compassion, seeing the divine in all creation. He inspired thousands, forming a new religious order, embodying humility and a direct connection to God, a beacon of hope against a backdrop of complex religious power.
This blurred line between sacred and secular is starkest in the Crusades. In 1095, Pope Urban II issues a call to arms, urging Europe's knights to free Jerusalem and the Holy Land from Muslim rule. It's a clarion call, echoed for centuries, setting off wars that shape history. For crusading knights, it's a chance for glory, salvation, valor, and piety. They sew crosses onto their tunics and shields, leaving homes and families for the promise of eternal reward. But the reality is brutal. The journey to the Holy Land is long, perilous, through hostile lands and treacherous seas. Many die from disease, starvation, or enemy swords. In 1099, the Crusaders capture Jerusalem after a brutal siege, establishing Christian kingdoms in the Levant. But holding this distant territory is a constant struggle. More crusades follow. The Crusader Knight, a deeply pious noble, journeys to Jerusalem. He sees comrades fall, his wife die, and eventually questions the very nature of the holy wars. He leaves his son in the Holy Land and returns to France, an unexpected heir to impoverished lands. He applies his honed leadership and diplomacy skills, restoring order, inviting scholars, translating Arabic and Greek texts, and improving the lives of his peasants. He retires to a monastery, believing true devotion lies in peace and knowledge, not warfare. The Crusades, despite their brutality, also expose Europeans to the East's riches and sophistication. Crusaders return with spices, silks, and new ideas, fueling trade and commerce, igniting intellectual and artistic awakenings that contribute to the Renaissance. The world, once vast and mysterious, begins to shrink. Yet even as Europe stirs, a new and terrifying force emerges from the East. In the early 13th century, a young man named the Steppe Warlord rises to power on the Central Asian steppes. Born into a nomadic Mongol clan, his early life is marked by hardship. But through strategic alliances, military prowess, and ruthless determination, he unites the disparate Mongol tribes. In 1206, he is proclaimed Genghis Khan, universal ruler. Under his leadership, the Mongols embark on conquests, creating the largest contiguous empire in world history. With unparalleled horsemanship, archery skills, rapid movement, and brutal siege tactics, they sweep through Central Asia, Persia, and China, capturing Beijing in 1215. They push into Russia and Eastern Europe, reaching the Danube. To medieval Europeans, the Mongols are terrifying, an alien force appearing from nowhere, wreaking destruction. Tales of skull pyramids and entire cities put to the sword spread. However, the Mongols are also known for religious tolerance, efficient governance, and promoting trade along the Silk Road. Under their rule, the Silk Road becomes a conduit for goods, ideas, technologies, and art, linking Europe and Asia closer than ever. After Genghis Khan's death in 1227, the empire divides among his descendants, who continue expansion but also feud. One grandson, Hulagu, poses the greatest threat to the Islamic world. In 1258, his forces capture Baghdad, ending the Abbasid Caliphate and marking a decisive power shift. The Mongol Empire eventually fragments, but its legacy endures, accelerating exchange across Eurasia, showing the power of steppe peoples to shape history.
But the greatest calamity is yet to come. In the 14th century, the Black Death sweeps across Europe. It starts as whispers from the Crimea in 1347, carried on ships, spreading like wildfire by fleas on rats. It leaps from port to town, leaving devastation. Symptoms are horrific: fever, chills, vomiting, diarrhea, and the telltale swollen black buboes. Most die within days. Panic grips the populace. Some flee to the countryside, but the plague follows. Others turn to superstition, blaming Jews or witches, or see it as divine punishment. The death toll is staggering. Between a third and half of Europe's population perishes. Fields lie fallow, towns are abandoned. The social and economic impact is profound. Labor becomes scarce. Peasants, once bound to the land, now demand better wages and rights, sowing the seeds for the end of serfdom. The plague will return in waves for centuries, a grim specter haunting the medieval world. One young Florentine, born into a wealthy merchant family, experiences the plague's horror in 1348. Just 18, he watches his friends, neighbors, and entire family succumb. Bereft, he plunges into studies, a way to cope with his grief, illustrating the individual impact amidst the monumental tragedy. As the medieval world reels, the whispers of change grow louder. In bustling towns, life for a craftsman is still defined by routine, but new ideas stir. Rising with the sun, the carpenter makes his way to his workshop. Bakers pull steaming loaves from ovens. Hawkers cry their wares. Children play. The ringing of church bells marks the hours. The carpenter expertly carves wood, crafting furniture or house beams. His skill, passed down through generations, is his pride and livelihood. His pieces are sought after, carried by merchants to far-off cities. As he works, town life swirls around him. Monks chant, jesters entertain. Occasionally, a traveling merchant arrives, wagons laden with exotic spices, silks, strange devices, and news of foreign wars or new learning stirring in universities. These new ideas trickle down. A client requests a classical motif. A painter friend experiments with perspective. The carpenter's concerns remain immediate: finishing orders, his son's aptitude, enough coin for food and fire. His world is his town, his craft, his family. Yet he senses the slow, inexorable shift, a new middle class challenging the old hierarchy. Amidst this changing world, extraordinary individuals carve their own paths. Consider the Lioness Queen, born in 1122 into the wealthy house of Poitiers. Granddaughter of a famous troubadour, she grew up in the vibrant culture of southern France. At just 15, she inherited the vast duchy of Aquitaine,
making her Europe's most eligible bride. She wed Louis VII, King of France, bringing Southern refinement to his court, introducing music and courtly love. But she was no mere consort. Her sharp wit, political acumen, and fierce independence made her a formidable presence. In 1147, she even accompanied Louis on the ill-fated Second Crusade to the Holy Land, leading her own contingent of knights and ladies. The Crusades' disaster, coupled with her failure to produce a male heir for France, led to the annulment of their marriage in 1152. But her story was far from over. 8 weeks later, she married Henry Plantagenet, Duke of Normandy, who would soon become Henry II of England. As Queen of England, she presided over a sophisticated court, patronizing arts, collecting books, and shrewdly operating politically, even supporting her sons in rebellions against their father. Her marriage to Henry was tempestuous, marred by infidelity and power struggles. In 1173, after supporting her son's failed rebellion, Henry imprisoned her for 16 years. Yet, in captivity, she maintained influence through her children, especially her favorite, Richard the Lionheart. Upon Henry's death, Richard finally released his mother, who, at 70, rode out to meet him with joy. In her later years, she skillfully served as regent while Richard crusaded, navigating treacherous politics and negotiating alliances. She died in 1204, at 82, outliving most contemporaries. Her legacy was immense. An ancestress of both English and French royal lines, she redefined queenship, actively engaging in politics and culture, challenging narrow confines, and proving a queen could be a patron, politician, and power in her own right. The intellectual landscape of the medieval world was also being profoundly shaped. Enter the scholastic master, born in 1225 into a noble Italian family. From a young age, he was sent to the Benedictine Abbey of Monte Cassino, but his heart called him to the new mendicant orders, especially the Dominicans, who emphasized poverty, preaching, and intellectual rigor. Against his family's wishes, he joined them in 1244. He studied under the great Albertus Magnus in Paris and Cologne, immersing himself in the newly rediscovered works of Aristotle and Islamic philosophers. He quickly gained a reputation as a brilliant, systematic thinker. His masterwork, the Summa Theologica, was a vast compendium seeking to reconcile faith and reason, revelation and natural philosophy. He grappled with profound questions: God's nature, human purpose, evil, salvation. Central to his thought was the compatibility of faith and reason as two paths to the same truth. He argued that revelation could never contradict rational inquiry, and studying nature was a way to understand God's creation. This idea profoundly impacted Western thought, paving the way for the scientific revolution and enlightenment. Yet, he was also deeply spiritual, known for humility and devotion. In his final years, after a mystical experience during Mass, he declared, "All that I have written seems like straw to me compared to what has now been revealed." He died in 1274, leaving a legacy that shaped Western philosophy and theology for centuries. He remains one of Christianity's greatest thinkers, his ideas resonating today. This deep faith also found expression in breathtaking art and architecture. The soaring cathedrals rising across Europe in the 12th and 13th centuries were not just places of worship, but embodiments of the medieval worldview, a divinely ordered, hierarchical universe.
One of the most remarkable is Chartres Cathedral in the picturesque French town of Chartres. Construction of the present cathedral began in 1194 after a fire destroyed the earlier Romanesque church. Over decades, thousands labored to erect a masterpiece of Gothic architecture, a soaring symphony in stone. At its heart is the labyrinth, a winding path inlaid in the nave floor. Walking it was a symbolic pilgrimage, a miniature journey to Jerusalem. The great western facade, with its sculpted saints and biblical figures, is a stone Bible, a visual catechism for the largely illiterate congregation. Soaring vaults and pointed arches draw the eye heavenward, while light through stained glass creates awe. Chartres is a testament to the deep faith and communal spirit of the medieval world. It was built by the entire community, rich and poor contributing labor and resources. Legends surround its construction: a mysterious master of the labyrinth, a miraculous beam. These tales highlight how Chartres and other cathedrals were more than buildings. They were expressions of shared faith, common culture, and collective aspiration toward the divine, embodying a universe infused with meaning and purpose. Despite popular images of medieval ignorance, the 12th and 13th centuries saw a remarkable intellectual flowering in cities like Paris, Bologna, and Oxford. A key figure in this revival was the visionary scholar, a 13th century English philosopher and scientist, often called the first modern thinker. Born in 1214, he studied at Oxford and Paris before joining the Franciscan order. He devoted himself to nature and knowledge, tirelessly expanding human understanding. A true polymath, his interests spanned mathematics, optics, linguistics, and alchemy. He was one of the first Western thinkers to advocate empirical observation and experimentation. He made significant contributions to optics and astronomy, even describing the use of lenses for magnification. But he was ahead of his time, often clashing with authorities. He criticized scholasticism, arguing true knowledge required reason, observation, and divine revelation. In his Opus Majus, he envisioned educational reform and knowledge advancement, emphasizing languages and a practical empirical approach. His ideas were met with suspicion and hostility. He was accused of heresy and sorcery, enduring years of imprisonment. Yet he never lost his passion for knowledge. He was a visionary, seeing beyond medieval science, daring to imagine knowledge as a tool for humanity's betterment. His legacy inspired generations of scientists who built on his ideas toward a more enlightened world. Let us now journey back further to a figure who laid foundations for the modern states of Europe, the Emperor of Franks. Born in 742, he was the son of Pepin the Short, king of the Franks. Upon his father's death in 768, he shared the crown with his brother, Carloman. But the Emperor of Franks harbored towering ambition: a united Christian empire across Europe. When Carloman died unexpectedly, he swiftly claimed sole rule. With a powerful army, he expanded his territories, conquering Lombards in Italy, Saxons in Germany, and Avars in Hungary. His reputation as a great warrior and leader grew. Brave on the battlefield, he was also a shrewd politician, forging alliances. His Frankish empire reached its greatest extent, from France's Atlantic coast to Hungary. He established a centralized government, standardized laws and coinage, and a network of loyal nobles. Perhaps his greatest legacy was fostering learning and culture. He patronized arts and sciences, promoting education throughout his empire. Scholars and artists flocked to his court at Aachen, translating ancient texts and creating art. This Carolingian Renaissance revived classical learning, laying groundwork for the later Renaissance. The most enduring symbol of his legacy came in 800 AD, on Christmas Day, when Pope Leo III crowned him Emperor of the Romans in St. Peter's Basilica, Rome. This momentous coronation, the first since the Roman Empire's fall, declared his authority as defender of the Christian faith. Despite brutal conquests and his empire's eventual fragmentation, the Emperor of Franks left an indelible mark, shaping European politics, culture, and religion for centuries. As this journey through the Middle Ages draws to a close, reflect on the lives we've imagined: the peasant, the king, the monk, the merchant, the queen, the scholar. Their world was one of profound hardship and soaring beauty, of brutality and kindness, of ignorance and wisdom. It was a time of immense social hierarchy, where one's place seemed divinely ordained. Yet it was also an era of dynamic change, fueled by ambition, faith, and relentless human spirit. From the simple rhythms of agricultural life to the complex intrigues of court, from the silent devotion of the scriptorium to the bustling clamor of the marketplace, these diverse lives form a rich tapestry.
They faced plagues, wars, and the slow grind of daily survival, much like us, though their challenges wore different faces. Their stories echo across time, reminding us of our shared humanity, our enduring quest for meaning, and our capacity for both great destruction and astonishing creation. The castles and cathedrals still stand, silent witnesses to their triumphs and struggles. The ideas forged in their minds continue to shape our world. We are connected to them, threads in the same grand narrative. As you now drift fully into slumber, carry with you the wonders and wisdom of this bygone era. Let the courage of the Ascendant Lord, the compassion of the Humble Friar, the wisdom of the scholastic master, and the resilience of countless unnamed peasants inspire you. For in the end, history is not just about kings and battles, but about every individual, every flicker of human experience, woven into an unfolding story that continues page by page with each new day.